Hello, world, and welcome to another episode of
Did You Know?
We love to talk about exciting subjects in science, medicine, robotics, astronomy, futuristic ideas, music, or anything interesting in the news. So let's get into it. Did you know in the news? Funeral home operators sentenced for selling body parts. Megan Hess, 46, and her 69-year-old mother, Shirley Coate, who pleaded guilty to fraud in July 2022. Now, Megan, the daughter, operated Sunset Mesa Funeral Home and Donor Services Body Parts entity in the same building in Montrose, Colorado. Now, here's a little history about this case. Megan Hess operated Sunset Mesa Funeral Directors and the associated Donor Services Inc., which was described as accepting non-transplant human tissue for such purposes as medical research. In 2018, the FBI served warrants at the business, which promptly and permanently closed. As time went on, allegations surfaced that Sunset Mesa had harvested and sold bodies or body parts without informing the securing permission from the next of kin. Multiple individuals shared with the Daily Press what the FBI had told them, and dozens of individuals filed civil lawsuits. The state of Colorado made its own allegations based on complaints from families who used Sunset Mesa to make arrangements for a loved one. The state said Hess returned either the wrong remains to families based on contents among the ashes, which did not fit what the decedent had been wearing, or the substance of other cremains, such as cement mix. That's messed up. I know I had to pause on that one. Hess agreed to surrender her funeral home and crematory license under the stipulations in which she did not admit the allegations, which she continued to deny in civil court filing. Now, this article is dated back in 2021, December 21st. Back then, Shirley Coate, one of the two women accused of a scheme to obtain and sell human remains, was federally indicted in 2020, along with her daughter, Megan Hess, who formerly operated Sunset Mesa Funeral Directors in Montrose. Now, back then, the women denied aiding and abetting mail fraud with respect to more than 30 decedents, as well as allegations that they violated the law with respect to shipping diseased human remains, specifically the heads of 3 people who were positive for hepatitis C without the proper paperwork. Now, Coate's attorney on December 15 filed to postpone her trial, which was set to begin February 7th of 2022. If that request would have been granted, that would have been the 5th time this trial date is continued. The U.S. Attorney's Office on December 17 hit back, stating its response that by February, it would have been almost 2 years since the indictments were handed down. Tim Nuff stated, obviously, the most significant factor weighing in favor of Coate's request to delay the trial is the fact that Coate's original set of attorneys have since withdrawn from the case, and they haven't recently been replaced with new counsel. Coate's attorneys argue in their motion that the ends of justice are served by the delay because of thousands of pieces of evidence that they need time to review, assess, and investigate in order to provide her with effective counsel. As per her constitutional rights, the courts must, in considering such a request, also determine whether a delay outweighs the best interest of the public, not only the defendant, Tim Nuff stated. Furthermore, delays will undermine victims' interest in getting timely closure because these kinds of delays are emotionally draining and frustrating. The court has a balance to strike, he argued, reiterating the public's interest is a part of the equation. Now we fast forward to January 3rd, where two women who operated the funeral home was convicted and sentenced to a federal prison. Now, according to the documents, Megan Hess and her mother Shirley stole the bodies or body parts of hundreds of victims from the funeral home they operated, which was named Sunset Mesa Funeral Home. They sold those remains to victims purchasing the remains for body broker services. Now, the DOJ stated that Hess would meet with the victims seeking cremation services for themselves or loved ones who have died. Now, Hess and Coate would represent to the victims that the funeral home would cremate decedents and provide the cremated remains back to the family. Instead, Hess and the others would harvest body parts from or prepare the entire bodies of the decedents for sale and body broker services. According to the plea agreement, Coate was presented from many of the meetings with families seeking cremation services for their loved ones who passed. In many instances, Coate and Hess neither discussed nor obtained authorizations for donation of their decedent bodies or body parts for the body broker services. In other incidents, the topics of donations was raised by Hess or Coate and specifically rejected by the families. And this article also stated that, according to the plea agreements, Hess and Coate would also ship body and body parts that tested positive for or belonging to people who have died from infectious diseases, including hepatitis B and C and HIV. After certifying the buyers that the remains were disease-free, these shipments would be through the mail on a commercial air flights in violation of the Department of Transportation regulations regarding the transportation of hazardous material. Now, the article finishes everything up stating that these two women preyed on vulnerable victims who turned to them in a time of grief and sadness. But instead of offering guidance, these greedy women betrayed the trust of hundreds of victims and mutilated their loved ones, stated the FBI Denver acting special agent in charge, Leonard Carollo. Sorry if I said your name wrong, I apologize. Without knowledge or consent, the woman disrespected the wishes of the grieving victims and degraded their bodies of their family members to sell them for profit. These two criminals continued in their atrocities for years, showing no remorse or contrition even after they were exposed. Nothing can guarantee solace for the victims or repair the damage done, but perhaps this sentence can mark the end of a horrible chapter in their lives. Hess, of course, was sentenced to 20 years after pleading guilty to one count of mail fraud and aiding and abetting. Coate, her mother, was sentenced to 15 years after pleading guilty to the same charges. There's some weird times. A lot of interesting things are happening in the news. What are your thoughts on this particular story here? I'm shocked. I'm sure you are as well. Let me know your comments on how you feel about this particular story. Until next time, you all stay safe and I'll talk to you soon. Again, on a side note, I appreciate all my subscribers. I am up to 20. I am like ecstatic. I'm very happy. I never thought I would be at 20, starting out with just one or two. But I appreciate the seconds that you all give me. I know it may not be much. I don't care. I still appreciate the time that you give to me just to listen to what I have to say, or just anything that might be interesting in the news. Again, I will repeat, until next time, stay safe and I'll talk to you soon. Boom.